So were you clapping because Jim was finished or I was beginning? All right. Well, we should have a good time this morning. We took a few practical steps from the last talk just to help with things. And one is that when we take questions or get in a conversation with one of you, we have a little mic and she's holding it up. And it's not to amplify your voice, it's to record your voice so that we can have better voice from me and whoever I'm talking to on the final video. So and somebody will bring that to you. So there'll be that little waiting to start. And that's good because you get a chance to compose yourself and see if you really want to ask the question you thought you did. Or there's another one arising, because it's like that. I keep, every time I'm a slow learner about some things, I keep trying to organize my talks ahead of time. And sometimes I even made a PowerPoint once. And then I tried to follow the outline. And there's something about that it seems great when I do it, but things move on. And there's a kind of art to transformative learning. And it's a practice for both the student and the teacher. It's something they collaborate with. So I'm going to start out with cosmology because that's what I'm talking about now. There's in the nature of reality. It's all the events are always arising in the moment, like the complete, perfect integration and synthesis of everything that's going on that your consciousness is involved in is arising in the moment. So I'll try to prepare these things, and I'll look up at the chart or outline or PowerPoint, and it's like yesterday, and I get very disoriented because the teaching and learning goes on in the present, and the more radically present you can become, the more powerful it is, because the more of the universe can be conscious with you. And the more you have preconceptions and too mental and too controlling, that changes what can be present. I mean, the universe is fine with that. It's an unconditional loving. So it just supports whatever craziness you want to do or I want to do in whatever limited form I want to do it in. And then, of course, it supports you in your limitation. It's very generous that way. So I started to think about this morning, and I got to that insight, and so I gave it up. So I'm not quite sure how this will go today. All this stuff is in there someplace. If I don't have it, you do, so I'll just look around and see who has the next piece. In fact, if you get stirred to ask a question, it may be because I forgot something and you remembered it. And so if you ask it, then we get it covered. I can even maybe try to draw a picture of that. I'm always trying to illustrate this stuff. And then next time I try to illustrate it, I don't like the last one I did because my viewpoint's changed. So you have to stay pretty fluid with this. But let me just see if it is simple, so let's see if I can keep it simple. Of course, the key of this is knowing yourself, and it's always been that way. And the more Googling you do and research you do, you'll always come back to that the ground of this is knowing yourself. And then you start to discover all the things we invented to not know ourselves. And then we invented things to get back into that. So there's always this dance going on between the part of us that wants to not know ourselves and the part of us that wants to know. And that's a good deal because it won't let us rest. The only place there's peace is when you've given up knowing anything and you're just present. And then it just kind of circulates around you and you're peaceful. See, because you're not disturbing yourself with any attempt to control reality in any way. And when that happens, there's a emergence begins to arise, or a descend. I notice it comes both ways. When we're walking like this, it kind of arises, and then when we say, well, what do I do about this? Then it descends and tells you. So these two forces going on in this constant cosmic dialogue. So. Now I just talked about this and don't know if I want to draw it or not. So, what's that?
It's already passed.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do it anyway. These were supposed to be the good markers. Well, that's okay. That's not the one I wanted, but let's try this one. I ask for good fresh markers, and then they give me all these colors, and I get confused. Well, this is worse than the last one. I'll stick with it. So, one thing nice about trying to imagine how it all goes together, it's like you're really asking a question. And so you make something up inside, and then it evolves, and that's because there's a response that always comes to you. So and we begin with that, like right where we are. We're very oriented to our bodies and the location they're in. And if you don't have a cosmology that is based on that, it's very confusing. Like if this cosmology just say, well, heaven, if there is one, is separate from you, and you're stuck here. I mean, if you just think about that, it's ridiculous. How could all this stuff work if that were so? See, even though we keep trying to create more of the separation as we can, eventually it will collapse and straighten itself out. So this is our location in this sort of thing here. If you'll just, my accurate anatomical drawing, we'll do big feet today and hands. If you do that developmental stuff, you can tell what age I am by what I draw here. Anybody know that stuff? Yeah. What age is this? I think you start out with like these things, and then you put little arms on them, and then you get to this. Yeah, something like that. So basically we're in these bodies, and we get to leave them once a day by going to sleep. And sometimes we remember that, and sometimes we don't. And all of our life has to do with this relationship to life and how we meet it and how we engage it. And if things are very difficult and there's a lot of, bad weather and survival needs, we get pretty locked into that. And make up stuff about it. And make up who we think we are. And from my perspective, we've done a lot of dissing, of that sort of thing, like talking badly about it. So we make up this who we think we are, and however, as well as we do that, and as much as life reinforces how great that image is and how successful it is in the world, we're always suspect. Like there's something else. So that's the part of us that's still in touch with this inner alignment, this inner channel. And is still in touch with the field that we live in. See? So we keep spinning I call it the replicate version. If you want to be a little more severe, you can call it the imposter self. The one that's pretending it's you. And everybody's telling you that's right. Unless they want you to be another imposter self, and then they tell you it's wrong. And it's not easy because I was reading this article the other day on epigenetics. Anybody heard of that word? It's about all the ancestral stuff that comes along and informs our genetics how to behave. It's not the basic code, but it just tells it what to turn on, what to turn off, what combinations it needs to work in. So it's this whole lineage gets involved here. And so we're conscious of it here from the basic genetic awareness into our conscious awareness here. And we keep spinning this out until we either get tired of it or it doesn't work, or we do it enough to suspect there's something else. Or some event happens that either is so of such magnitude, it captures us so fully that it's all we can focus on. And that's actually a transcendent experience. Like we just bypass all the stuff we made up in that moment because this thing gripped us. Then we handle it, and then later we tend to forget. How long did it take, after the thing in New Orleans, how long did it take everybody to start forgetting about it? See, even though it got our attention, everybody woke up and was doing human things to each other instead of working in opposition to that. Or sometimes it just, we're looking out at a sunset or in the forest and somehow we connect with that and this bigger energy happens inside of us. We wonder about that. Or maybe we think there's something going on, so we practice some kind of meditation or contemplation, and eventually a sense of this other self wakes up. So this is the beginning of the transformation in a conscious way. Life is set up to transform. And the reason we don't think that sometimes is we are very creative and we do everything we can to have that not happen. In the self we organize and call ourselves, that's designed to live in this world, and the reflected back self. It plays like, there's a lot of playing like we change. And a lot of it is just we rearrange and do it, we reinvest the same thing over again. Years ago I was involved in the civil rights movement, and we were all about change, transformation. And some of what I noticed, it worked out very well in the long run. But in the moment you have your own ideas and attachments, and so you get depressed when it doesn't turn out, feel sorry for yourself, feel betrayed. Anyway, so I became aware one day in this conversation with this person in someplace down south, that the people that were finding new positions of power and authority in these communities were just recreating the same thing we just dealt with. So it was certainly a statement of human equality, because whatever you put in charge and whatever group gets there is going to reinvent the same thing they just rebelled against. And so So we need to be conscious of this tendency. Not make it bad or judge it, but be conscious of it. See? So, there's this part of me that does that. There's this function inside of me that does that. And it does that for good reasons. It does that so you have a sense of continuity, so you have a sense of survival and safety, so you have a sense of how to get what you need. See, so it's good. See, you don't turn against it like we're not killing the ego, or see what that sets up and say, I'm going to kill the ego. And so, it's like, you didn't come from an abused childhood, you just abused it. So I guess you can join the club then. So I guess we all abuse our childhood in some way. So just let everybody off the hook, because it's just something we do. So from my perspective, it's as you discover this self that is so locked into safety, fear-based, that the first thing you do is omit the judging. I'm getting to the practical part now. Whatever you discover, however ugly it is, first discipline. Omit the judging. And if you do, don't waste the judging. See, because it reflects something you want to change or deal with in some way. So go ahead and make your judgment, but then forgive yourself. See, don't get stuck again in a new version that's judging. See, you discovered, you judged, and if you hold to the judging, the vulnerability through which you discovered that will shut itself down. So first is not to judge, or if you do, forgive yourself. And another very powerful, very next thing to do with this limitation or distortion or ugliness you just discovered about yourself, or this fear, and you know maybe you have an idealized idea you shouldn't have fear, but there it is, or that you're not controlling or manipulating, is gratitude. See, because when we started out, it's a trust that life is transformative, and it's always working for your highest good on whatever terms you made up, or your group you're enmeshed in made up. And we all do that because it's a way we manage life. See, so appreciation. And that immediately, you reconnect with this field when you do that. When you move to appreciation, you immediately connect with whatever it is that's managing that incredible coordination of everything. See? From my perspective, the highest level of that is a loving that permeates everything. And it takes a while to really understand that energy because we're so used to conditional stuff. In fact, most of us were conditioned to know how to go to the bathroom properly through conditional love or threat. So most of our love experience is fear-based. And so it has that element to it. However, if you're willing to recognize that, you take the next step to appreciate that. See? And that puts it back into the wholeness. I know a lot of you in here are therapists, and essentially therapy is getting people disentangled from their false self, reminding them who they are, and loving them until they get through that process. It's pretty nice. See, it's a simple process. Well, that reminded me of another piece I want to talk. So I'm on to that actually. So this self-study, this self-awareness, this study of self. we're back to the centrality of that. One of my favorite things about being I had to say that to do this next piece. It's a setup. So as a therapist, actually, it's a wonderful profession. People come in, remind you of what you need to know about yourself or forgot about so you can deal with it, and then they pay you. It's a great profession. And it's good you can laugh about that because there is a truth to it. See? There's a deeper truth too, that there's this reciprocity, this dialogue going on, that underneath there's some kind of wisdom that we know about. That in this there's some kind of reflexivity between what's in our inner reality and what's in theirs, and how it engages in this world as a form of transformation. See, we're probably going to wear this Gandhi statement out, that be the change you want to see. Well, so be the therapy you want to see happen in yourself. So it's a shift into what starts out maybe in an ego sense of, well, it's all about me. There's some truth to that, but they got to get the real me, the real I am. What is that truth? So as we practice a way to go deeper, to connect, sometimes we meditate, sometimes we go for a walk in nature. We all have a way to start entertaining that conversation with the soulness of ourself, or the truth of ourself. And so when you start able to engage each aspect of your life with awareness and gratitude, simultaneously with becoming aware of this soul self, and keep doing things that build the energy up on that. There's a self-mediating process, it's a self-mediating process goes on. A lot of times I'm working with people, we'll talk about something, say, what are you experiencing? And then they often go off on what they're thinking about, or what popped in their imagination, or what they did yesterday, or something else they had on their mind and hadn't brought up yet. I said, no, what are you experiencing? And that experiencing starts bringing them into the present. And in that present, they start becoming aware of the emerging self. So it starts unconscious at first. But as soon as they say, well, I'm feeling a little tight, or I'm feeling a little, I'm starting to feel a little peaceful, or I'm excited about something inside. See, as soon as they do that, as soon as you do that, as soon as we do that, we reconnect with that emerging process that's bringing forward the next reality. See, and then you have a contract with each other. You have the dialogue. There's another practical part. Just learning to dialogue, in contrast to arguing or debating, which polarizes and tries to dominate or win or lose. Or conversation, which is, let's keep guiding the conversation so we don't touch on anything real and spoil anything. But sometimes you just need a break, so do that. It's not a problem. See, the idea is not to stop doing these things, it's just to know you're doing them so you can use them when you need them. See? Now today I'm just going to be really shallow. So as that awareness, what am I experiencing right now? See, if I just go into that and just keep going there, a funny thing happens. I just forget what I'm doing here because it's really nice. See, so it becomes present. So try it rather than anticipating what I'm going to say next, because you're going to forget it anyway. And I just had to make it up anyway. I did just now make it up. So when you think about it, it's gone anyway. So you have to make up your own. See, so just practice being present for the moment. And what does that mean? Well, start out just being aware of what you're experiencing right now. And whatever that is, just appreciate it. And while you're exploring that, you might realize that you spend most of your time trying to fix stuff. See, and there's this cosmological principle I mentioned a few moments ago that whatever you're focusing on, life's going to give you. So if you start fixing it, looking for stuff to fix, the universe just gives you more stuff to fix because that's what you're focusing on. See? So, okay. So there's a different perspective. You can tell when you're becoming present because you start, certain senses open up and certain awarenesses start coming up. One's trust, the sense of well-being. You shift from a fear base to a love base, the body starts to relax. See? And as you do that, there's an increasing engagement with deeper and deeper dimensions of energy. And there's a dropping into deeper alignment inside of you. See? So you just start following that. See? And at some point you start becoming aware of your kinship with everything. That's the advanced part. That takes about 5 or 10 minutes. And then there's the alignment where you really become aware that there's something odd about me in comparison to my made-up self. There's something in my nature that actually bridges the spiritual worlds and this physical world. So my natural state is to be a bridge. Oh, so my natural state is to be conscious of the emerging reality. Instead of being subjected to it, instead of it always surprising you. Your role is to be the conduit of it. I don't know if that's the best word, but we always have to make up the next best word because it's hard to... Just know that you're always lying about it to talk about it. So in dialogue, all we're doing is, deconstructing and breaking through stuff so this other consciousness can come awaken us, and then we can collaborate with that. So the dialogue is always kind of trailing the reality. See, it's already where it's going to be, but we want to get as close to that as possible, so that where we are, what we're present with, is right in that mystery as it makes itself evident, however we can call that. So you're still practicing being present while you listen, right? So, I can listen and be present. Because, see, so you're listening, but you use that listening to what I'm saying as a point of attention, like some place to either use to stay present or fall asleep. It'll do either one. I find it does either one. I start paying attention to something, and sometimes I just go out. And other times I just wake up. So you have to trust that. Because when you bring your attention to that and you're present, it's whatever this will is. For years I was going to say God's will, and I do that a lot these days, but I went through this whole, maybe about 5 or 6 years where I wouldn't use the word God because everybody had so many ideas of it that you'd have to deal with that. And And I'd been raised with some ideas that seemed ridiculous at the time. I thought the smiling Jesus was okay, but the thing about this old guy in a chair was a little troubling. It was harsh guy on a chair. Like, I don't think that's like it is, but I had to work a while to get past that. And so we all have some form of that in whatever lineage we grew up on the planet. They all have their control stuff. So that you're not the one that has the gift of spirit. You're the one that has to go to this other person for it, so that they can have, run their economy. Essentially. So let's see, where was I? See, there you go.
God's will.
Oh yeah, God and God's will. See, that sounds like a harsh thing when it's a mean guy on the chair. Like it's something on a duty or something I have to, tighten up for. But it's really quite simple. It's always for your highest good, and it's always loving. The will at that level and the loving are inseparable. So this other stuff we've been calling God's will. Somebody made that up. Or with some level of consciousness that its function is to promote that, and it's not the essence, it's not the soul nature. Soul nature is always going to be loving. And it's a kind of love that, you just have to go in and get to know it. and strive to do that, see? And it keeps emerging and telling you what it is. So, so from the ego viewpoint, and this is maybe another practical tool, the ego's always going to feel a little offended or resistant to this greater will, because it thinks it's giving up a freedom to something. And we have there is the nature of spirit that's free. So when the ego gets hold of that and say, no, freedom is, getting to mess up or do whatever and screw with myself and whatever I want. Well, that's a form of freedom to keep yourself in a smaller state of consciousness and have that experience. And again, that's not good or bad, that's just what we're doing. So we have to be very gentle with the ego in this perspective, so that it will entertain that this will is of a deeper loving self. So it's building up a relationship with yourself. So your own ego, your own body, your own basic self is going to trust itself in your hands. Oh, that's an interesting thought. So most of the self we've been running is one that doesn't trust us. Like, I'm going to do this self and protect it because I don't trust that bigger guy in there. See? The bigger one, the deeper one, the soul self, was a collaborator with, continues to collaborate with. See, that's a done deal. Continually collaborates with your life and what comes forward and how you respond to it. So when we get to God's will, it's that level of our own self that is so merged with that, it's hard to tell whose thought was whose. See? And you can always tell when you're in that state because there's a sensibility of the loving that's at that level. And so once you trust yourself because you've been taking care of yourself and with gratitude and forgiveness and good food and a balanced life, and so pretty soon the ego starts to trust you with itself. And so it will give over. We call that surrender. See, we're over here and our self is here, and we surrender into that alignment. And then there's that conversation between heaven and earth starts going inside of you. See? So in terms of dialogue, we're always dialoguing on that level with each other. A lot of you just could sense that just then, right? Yeah. So that's the level I like to get going in a classroom when I'm working with it. See, and it's kind of a convention that we hold here, so that the reflexivity can, that is each of our making each other up. It's fluid enough to start being conscious of the process that's going on. Did that make sense? Oh, good, I didn't get it. So there's dialogue allows a congruency to begin to occur that will always move the people involved in the dialogue towards that alignment and towards that present, and create a condition where the soul starts to enter into the conversation. You might have to get through a couple of differences and work out a few things. See, but remember, it's like, you drop the judgment or include the forgiveness, or you appreciate things within yourself, but also within the person you're talking to. So it's this viewpoint of presence, this perspective that it has, that the person you're talking to is the same spiritual phenomena that you are. See, so in that state where we're unified, what the other person says is what you're saying to yourself. See? So if somebody comes up and rants at you and curses, it's like, there's a tendency to like engage that and react. Well, engage it, but then drop into the presence. Because if you track that back, there's someplace you did the same thing to yourself. And if you have a button, it's still in there ranting. See how free that is, how generous. See? So any questions at this point or comments? I just went through a lot of stuff, but maybe everybody's like, okay, let's just sit here all day. Yep. It's a new it's already on.
It's not now.
It's not blinking.
I just wanted you to repeat, please, that last insight.
Say that again.
I just wanted you to repeat, please, that last insight that you just finished saying. When somebody approaches you in a harsh way,
Keep going.
our reaction,
Uh-huh.
I just want a little bit more.
It's really close, right?
Because I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah.
resonates.
Yeah, so,
I work for Esperanza Shelter for Domestic Violence,
right.
so
They're so lucky. So, okay, I'm going to give a big answer, not just what I just said, because there's the basis that when we can be present in a way that engages hostility and acknowledges the realness of it. You know, it's real hostility. There's victimization going on. There's attack going on. And we've practiced enough where we can stay present instead of getting pulled into it. See? So that's a practice. And so at first it's all we can do to remember to do that. Maybe that evening when we're all messed up and have to get our balance back, and that's the way we get it back. We meditate till we get that state, and then we work it out of ourselves. And pretty soon it gets to be spontaneous. Well, pretty soon, 10 years, 20, I don't know. On a bad day, I can still get caught up in it, and a good day, nothing can touch me. See, so there's more good days than bad days as you go along. And that's not a judgment, that's just a description. So there's an awareness of that relationship. So when I said that, it resonated with some truth, you know. Otherwise, you wouldn't ask the question. So you're really strongly developed for this already. Like you really have a lot of wisdom in this area. And if you were to ask other people how they perceive you, they'd probably perceive you as a point of stillness or source of strength in the midst of the chaos. They would probably describe you that way. Anybody work with her here? No? Okay. Okay, so that's an awareness of self that you invite a deeper acquaintance with. See, more conversation with her. So with domestic violence, there's always this first step where the victim has to give up that role. You know, they have to give up that self that defines itself as the victim. So whatever way they can, short of shooting the other person, preferably, or burning them down and burning them up in their sleep. That's creates other complications in this society. But they have to stand up in some way. So the first one is kind of reactive for them. But for you, it's like you can be the loving presence that facilitates that process. Because there's something really interesting about the nature of our consciousness. That when somebody that's violent and we just be present and love them, this is part of what the nonviolent tactic we used in the civil rights movement was about. It somehow accelerates the process of the anger and the karma of it. So that the person that's angry and out of hand meets their consequence quicker. It's not that we make them do that. It's just that by being present as a representative of the loving and observing with that, life acts through that in a way that accelerates that process. See? So your client comes in and they've made one big step. They've got out of Dodge and now they're present here. And that also then begins to catalyze or start the next awareness inside of them, just because you're in dialogue with them. And so that starts to quicken that inside. So the more you sit with them and they tell their story and you are present listening, and perhaps you coach from them out of victim at best, maybe a little that's good, so they rework their mindset and reinforce whatever came alive for them to get out of there. And maybe a few strategies that give them a way to go. But see, those aren't fixing, you're just starting to track the process, because that's the evolution of it. So all you're doing is, teaching them how to paddle a boat down the stream, not fixing anything. And you're in that presence, see? And that's the process, see? And so since you've been practicing it longer, you can start to teach them that process. See, as soon as they quit being a victim, they've switched, see? And then they start working through the patterns that want to blame the other person, because as long as they're blaming the other person, want to get even, they're still a victim. See? So they have to give that up. They might just to be helpful, take them to court or something so the person gets some guidelines or rules or something that help them contain their behavior a little bit. But that's just practical. That's not revenge. Shooting them's revenge. See? So that's the process. See, and it follows a very natural sequence of human transformation. Well, so if you get that part, you might consider another level. And that's this, in this next level of energy, we've all been contributing to a spectrum of information that informs people in their violence. It informs people to be small. See, so in this couple that became violent, see, there's a lot of that there, both in terms of the victim information and the victimizer information. They just, as we know, they just switch roles as they go. If you don't break the cycle, it's going to be passed on, which is nice. We pass things on until somebody resolves it. You know, how else should it be? It's wonderful. See, somebody says, well, it stops here. Okay. So when you realize that even the victimizer is caught in a misinformation about themselves and about life and what their pain means, and you can talk to them, like there's been some people that's their mission or ministry. They work with the victimizer. Maybe you do some of that there, I don't know.
We do.
Yeah, okay, so the same,
With both.
right, so the same dialogue process starts unraveling them. Well, so while you're doing it on these levels, you also can begin to do it on the other levels. See, when we take, there's a funny way of taking responsibility. It's like in our ego, we don't understand responsibility because we'll always do shame and blame. We'll always defend, it's not our fault, it's not this, it's not that. So when you're ready to take responsibility, but not do shame and blame, or not think you have to fix stuff, or save souls, or whatever else people get hooked into, or have evidence that, you know, you transformed this person, you know, have an agenda to make them better. Because in the cosmology of their karma, they're correctly behaving. See? And that has its own consequence, and life's set up to bring it back to them. See, so you don't have to do that. See? And you don't have to fix them because they're set up to fix themselves. However, since you're in their reality, you must have a part to play. Otherwise, somebody else would be there. See? Right? You get this, right? Yeah. So you look at them from a higher place. You have this soul self that we talked about. You go into her. And in the soul self, you can really play around with it. Like, well, since they're in my reality, I must have had something to do at some place, time, circumstance, dimension, to create or promote or allow whatever expression they're in. See, otherwise, they wouldn't be in my reality. It gets simple-minded, big-hearted. See? And so you start asking for forgiveness for ever contributing to such destructive, hurtful behavior. See, and that's between you and the universe, or you and God. See, and it starts to, when you did that, you could feel that, right? A couple other people tried it. See, it started clearing that up. Sometimes it's whatever your soul's, wherever you've been, sometimes it's your ancestors. See, because that's all active in our field in terms of informing us. See, so, this man I'm talking to here, or woman, sometimes there's a woman abuser, they're here to help me heal my ancestors. Or they're here to resolve this sad place in my heart. See? And so by going to this higher level and working with that, you see we're in this environment of energy. It's always informing us. They recommend addicts not go back to the, recovered addicts not go back to the old neighborhood because when they get back in that, the morphic field of that place, it just starts repenetrating them. And they start acting on that information as if it's theirs. And they go right back into it, see? So so we can use the same thing to clean up the information spiritually. with our own loving, with our own forgiveness, with our own gratitude, with our own bigness. See?
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's like these things become a little thing, you like open it up and there's this whole thing that goes with it. Yeah. And so all that sounds familiar to you, right?
Yes.
So this is the other part of this. We're always reminding each other of what we already know. See? See? And if we're acting like idiots, it's because we forgot that the better way to act is stupid. Well, thank you. That just...
Hi. My question is, I'm following you so far with this dialogue within yourself.
Huh?
And my experience is I don't quite make it out of the fear versus safety, and life in its transformation process wants to kick me in the butt.
Uh-huh.
And
So you're
I
really in
need to
touch
wear a
with piece
helmet.
of it. So it sounds like you're really in touch with part of it.
And I need to hold on for dear life.
Yeah. Well, don't
And
stop
this,
doing that because you'll drown if you don't. See? Like,
So we're
see,
finding the
first step.
appreciation in that
Yeah,
can
first
be
step.
in my challenge.
Like, I'm hanging on for dear life, but there's a judgment in there that you shouldn't be doing that.
I don't want to get hurt.
Yeah, you don't want to get hurt, that's why you're hanging on for dear life. But someplace in there says, because of something else you sense, I should be able to let go of that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah. See, so that doesn't work. So judging that, like, oh, this way works. Can I add something to this that also works? See? Okay, so like when I'm hanging on for dear life so I don't drown, can I start looking for branches at the same time? See? Or can I see, they use this in trauma stuff a lot, where you find a resource point. Said, is there a time where I experienced something differently? Because somehow I'm comparing this to a different state of consciousness where I'm not in fear. So, but so far you've used a different state of consciousness to judge this one. So you don't get to use this one. See, you just keep telling the universe, I want to keep this little game going.
There's a few more, I think.
We just want to keep the game going. So, okay, let me just appreciate the game. I'm so glad I can hang on to something so I don't drown. I'm so grateful for this little branch, and this has been my reality for so long, and it covers me because it's familiar. See, just appreciation, no judgment. Well, as soon as you do appreciation, the bigness comes back. See, and there's a little bit of peace can come into it. Then you have a little breathing room to start looking for the other folks. See, the ones that remember the loving, that remember the trust. So you keep the one that mistrusts here and you bring the one that trusts. See, and then you don't do anything with that. You just practice both of them. See? You try it. See? Let the one in your holding the mic be the fear one, and take your other hand and go find the one that's not it's loving. Someplace. Can you find her? She's got to be within arm's reach. It's just set up that way. She's not clear across the room. Yeah. Okay, yeah, okay. Touch into your heart. Now just touch into your heart while you're also hanging on for dear life.
Right.
Hang on for dear life and touch into your heart. You're doing both at the same time. I just take a breath and relax into that and just hang out with that. You hang out with that and do it some more. And just deepen the touch into your heart. See? Not trying to make anything happen, just holding on to the fear, holding on to the love. See, and there's a natural intelligence here that knows what to do if you let it. So now the only surrender you need is holding on to both without messing with them. See, that's only willfulness you need to have here, no, only active will. Yeah, so what are you starting to experience now? Something started to arise inside. Feel that emotion?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just let it come up. Yeah, no saving face, no. It's like, oh, this is good. Something's getting together that needs it. See, myself and that basic self are starting to mix it up again. See, now that energy, as it comes in and you feel the emotion, feel it tearing up, you want to get on that train.
Right.
These two are taking care of themselves. You can get on that other train.
New ride.
So then you got three things going.
Yeah.
And as soon as you do that, it's going to work itself through it.
Thank you.
So what are you experiencing right now?
A better integration.
Better integration. So you know what integration feels like. That's good.
Yeah.
See, you're pretty far along with this. See?
And some level of exhaustion.
Yeah.
It's tiring.
Well, you've been doing it a long
I've
time.
been doing it a long time.
Yeah, so it has to rest, and the loving helps it replenish itself also. But there will be that, it's going to start to surface all the consequence of the desperate days. And fatigue's one of those. And so it's the kind of fatigue that's the releasing of fatigued energy.
Yeah.
See? Yeah.
Thank you.
And so you just go through that territory. And then you see what's on the beach when you get there. See?
It's reassuring.
And so every time this comes up, that's what you do with it. And there's probably several places you said there's several. Well, you just take your time, and one will come up and one day, and then will come up the next day, and eventually you'll get through all of them. And at some point there'll be a shift in authority inside, and they'll just all settle it themselves at once.
Imagine.
Yeah. You just feel it. They're just like, you feel them just all convert.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's cool, huh?
Mm.
See, we're so well put together. And it's just like, how do you work this thing? Yeah. So some of it's kind of logical, because if you take stock of yourself in this body, there's this bilateral symmetry. So that's a clue. This is very well adapted to duality. This view, that view, right hand, left hand. In fact, we talk about it that way. And so and we're all focused out here where life arises and we meet it, and we tend to, first response is going to be in this awareness. It's a duality. So that works really well. But then we formulate our sense of self based on that. Well, all we have to do is start adding something else, which is this deeper, truer aspect of self, the one that is the eternal one, the third part. See, in our conversation, at some part, we just appreciated the duality. And then the unity part, the unity self, is sneaking up on us all the time. It's part of this emergent reality thing, is that the unity and the loving is always stalking us. It's always sneaking up on us. And so at some point that comes into awareness. See, and then you have the whole program working. And it's just self-healing. And so then you just have the wit to ride it. And it'll take you where it needs to. So where it takes you usually is to what the truth of what you were trying to develop or resolve or explore by going through this tribulation, this trial and tribulation, always has a purpose. And it's going to be the reversed expression of what you're trying to gain in your consciousness. See? So as soon as you become conscious of why you got involved in that in the first place, or how you got involved in the first place, it's done. It no longer has a basis for reality. See? None of the negativity has a basis for reality other than what your purpose is. That's a big one, huh? What happened? Yeah, it's the next step past where we got. It's like, okay. There's something, by hanging on to this life raft for dear life, there's some purposefulness. There's some deeper reason I'm doing this more than just survival. Feels like survival, tastes like survival, smells like seems like if I let go it's annihilation. However, what I'm suggesting is there's a purposefulness to it. It's the reverse of some positive agenda you have as a soul. To either resolve something, like to know what that kind of life is like, resolve the destructiveness, appreciate the consequence of something, appreciate what it feels like when you let go of it and take something else. See? There's always some deeper purpose. And once you have that realization, and your body records that as a feeling, as an experience, see, you'll never see it may come it'll never take over your center again. It'll never dictate to you your state of consciousness. It may come and go, or you might meet it in somebody else and you give them advice, see, or stand in support, but it never informs your state of being anymore. See, and that's the prize, and that's the agenda of the soul, is to get that as a consciousness. That's another version of what I said. I just said it brief enough before for people to go, what? Yeah, and you liked it. So it's a good thing you made me up today. And it's a good thing I made you up, because it always, see, I can check and see if I'm still doing that anywhere. Yeah.
I am going back to the area where if I heard you correctly.
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, you can't. Can you hear me now?
Sure.
Okay, I said I didn't want to step in any doo-doo with this, but I'm going back to the area kind of between where I think you were talking about God, and you were saying that he's not somebody. We get in trouble when we think of him as somebody in a chair.
Him, her, it, whatever it is.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, I'm starting with the oldest premise, which is probably him in a chair.
Sure.
There, right.
It
Okay.
could be a toilet for all you know. I think for Carl Jung, it was a toilet, because he had a vision one time that God was crapping on the earth. So maybe it's a toilet.
Well, then I grew up as a Buddhist, so you know, it's even worse. I have somebody just on a platform.
You grew up as a Buddhist?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
I'm from Hong Kong, whatever. But
How do you know you grew up?
that's highly questionable. I'm sure I didn't.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's a good thing. But anyway, getting kind of away from that, you kind of lost me in that area, because the next thing I kind of remember is that the tone in the room, I felt it change when you got to surrender. Okay.
Yeah, Buddhists do that, right?
Always.
Yeah.
Constant state of that,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm not sure what to, but, you know, we're always surrendering to something. But anyway, the question has two parts. Because I think you know, then related that, you know, that if I'm wrong, correct me, that, you know, God is actually within us. Wasn't that kind of something that you said?
Also, yes.
Yes, right, okay.
It's everywhere. It's like,
Right. Within us, yeah. And I think there was kind of a, you know, a sense in the room that people felt that way too.
yeah.
Right. Okay. I don't know that everybody feels that way, and that's where I'm risking stepping in doo-doo here, I think. Is that many of us, you know, many people feel that, you know, they're a member of a religion that, you know, says otherwise.
It really doesn't say otherwise. It just says it differently.
Differently. Okay. However, here's the two part of the question: is because then you got to the word surrender, and it brought to mind that we as therapists, many of us, are trained in various ways of treatment. Okay, so the first thing that came to my mind is that, being as, God or whatever we call it, we think about death, and of course, so often in our lives, we say about something that happened, he'll get his just desserts when he dies, because God will take care of it, or whatever. So I'm thinking, that's interesting because that places God, again, externally,
Yeah, I didn't say it that way, but somebody
you
did.
didn't.
Yeah.
No, you didn't at all. But, that again says to me, well, I guess the most aware people in the world are in the room, because so many people, place God as an external.
Of course, that's part of the manipulation. As long as you can keep it separate from the person, you can manipulate them.
Okay, but that's unfortunate.
Yeah. So, what's your question?
Okay, so I want to get to again, the awareness that God is an internal.
Yeah, yeah.
obviously, okay, and so here we are doing 12-step programs and telling people, where we teach people that they don't have the power within themselves to overcome an addiction.
Was there 12 steps?
Yeah,
But you add a 13th step. And then once you get them all in this like a higher self, then you do, and you're your higher self, by the way.
That's my problem with this all, is that why are we telling people that they don't have the power?
Who's we and who's telling them, doing this telling?
That's part of that program that I
Yeah.
actually
So you have an issue with that.
I do.
And that's going to control you and shape you. And so you can't really enjoy your Buddhism doing it that way.
Well, I'm just that's one of the reasons that I don't participate in drug treatment and alcohol treatment with a 12-step perspective, is because I don't like to tell people that they don't have the power and they have to turn it over to God.
Wait. You're
I knew I'd step in doo-doo.
No. Time out. You didn't step into anything. What you got is a own personal issue inside that has nothing to do with reality. You could take the things I just said so far and compare them to the 12-step program, head piece for piece.
But do you understand where I'm coming from on it?
No, I do understand where you're coming from, and it's a place of your own personal consternation. So in the reflection back of it.
What you're saying, which is that we have that power inside.
Yeah, but the issue is in your way.
It's not my way.
Yeah, it just got in your way.
No, it's not my way.
You have an issue with, and
Why do we teach people that they don't have that?
because somebody has it's the best tool somebody has. So we don't, in this, what I'm suggesting here is you can't manage those people that are doing that. It'll drive you crazy.
No, it'll drive them crazy.
No, you're trying to manage them. So I'll suggest you just go back to your Buddhism and let it work for you.
Well, I don't have an addiction problem. That's not my problem. But the thing is that So we tell a lie. We tell a lie to manage people.
So we're not going to get anywhere with this because we're in a debate. We're in a debate, and we're not going to go anywhere with debate because it's not going to bring anything about.
No, but
So when you want to get to what you want to ask or say,
I'm asking your perspective on this.
every time I respond to you, put me back into an argument.
I'm not arguing.
Yeah, like we're in a courtroom or something.
I guess
Yeah, because you have an issue that you're trying to promote.
No, I'm asking your perspective. Would it not be better
Well,
to teach people, that the Lord is inside them, that the power is actually inside
so if you consider that better, do you do it?
personally.
And are you an example of that?
An example of that?
Yeah. So what's the point? Don't see any value in what?
In that if you, I mean, for example, if you believe this.
I don't believe anything. You asked me if I believe something, and I don't believe anything. What's that? Of course it doesn't. I don't.
I mean, you just made a whole series of statements that now you're saying,
Yeah.
just they're gone.
You asked me if I believe something, and I don't believe anything.
Okay, so why should I say I believe it?
What's that?
I mean,
You're welcome.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Of course it doesn't. The only trust that exists is within yourself, and if it's not there, it's nowhere.
Okay.
It's not up to
That answers
me.
my question. Now I know who I'm dealing with.
And at 10 minutes. How about 10 minutes?
I don't think I can talk for 10 minutes. No. I got a little
It's not-
confused.
You're not charged with the whole 10 minutes.
By the minute. Okay, good. Thank God for that. Yeah, I've done a lot of therapy in the last 8 years, and before that at the boys' school, working with people in trouble. And I heard what you were saying about the thing that presents the presenting problem, in depression or whatever it is, that it is very helpful to point out to the client early on that that's where the cure is going to come from. The energy comes from the problem. I think that was Jung too, Carl Jung.
Yeah, the information is in the problem. Yeah.
Find the problem, find out what's gone wrong. Yeah. And then there was a reference back to Rilke of almost the genetic thing you were saying, the mythology of the dragons and curing them. You had to use love, or they went out with a magic sword, and all that kind of mythology showed that it's imprinted in us, that those old myths are of the thing that's threatening you and you're hiding from, and it's accepting it and say, come in, whatever the cause of the depression or the anger, and that's going to be the cure. That's what you got to do, sit down. And I find it's hard to talk in here to say it, but one-on-one it really comes across quick. And I say, oh, I see.
Yeah.
You just let her sit down. It might, think of it as an adolescent child that keeps back talking to you. But you welcome them in, sit them down, and say you're part of the family.
Yeah.
You don't close the door. Or an old hag, attacking you, but actually visualize it as something and accept it and welcome it. And then you can start dealing with it. And I found people who can do that really pretty
It sounds like that really worked well for you.
Yeah, it really does. And it's in the group, or when it's not you that it's happening, until you realize there's the energy. That is the thing. It's like the thing you were saying too, where you just reach over and the cure's right here. It's always right around you. And the depression or the anxiety is the same way.
Yeah.
It's right there, and the cure is right there too, by accepting it. So that's kind of the new theories that are coming up, is acceptance, the ACT.
Yeah.
And that's a key point, is accepting in the problem and seeing that's really where the energy comes from.
Yeah, in my schooling, we start out with Rogers, with, way back, unconditional positive regard, and that's working.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And then something about the natural process that's going to lead us to the cure once we start tracking it.
Right.
And that's a very nice way of tracking it that you described.
I find a major thing, though, just to say this too, because since I've been here, it keeps ringing in my ears, that most of the changes are just natural. As you grow, you develop those developmental changes, and trying to force them. Even addictions, they're very hard to get rid of. And on a certain day, they just quit drinking. It seems.
Yeah, I wonder how many of our clients get better despite us.
Yeah. I know. And that we create the problems we pretend to cure. I know that's part of it too.
Yeah.
But I think what happens is that we find out over life, what I really like to point out is that everybody's not watching you. That's a strange day when that happens.
Yeah,
Nobody.
I'd like to do a
nobody
little. I'd like to do a little twist on that. Everybody's not watching you, but everything is watching you.
No. And this is where I'm going to have to side with her.
But wait a second.
Okay.
One of the very basic things here in reflexivity and dialogue is that when you look out at life, life is looking back at you. Mm-hmm. So internally, everything is watching everything. Okay. And that's the ground of it.
But the God that you call the God's will.
I don't know anything about
on
buts.
another day, you realize He doesn't care either way either.
That's-
He's not watching you either.
Yeah.
And he doesn't care.
see,
like
this
you were
is-
saying, nothing is
Think about
really
this,
true.
what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
You're still ascribing something to this that's in your mind about it, and still arguing with a form of it. There's something about life that's sentient, that every part knows every part, and it's through the loving,
Right.
the unconditional loving. And at that level, at that dimension, it's in us, it's around us. Everything is aware of everything.
Absolutely.
And
The
so
Tao.
what we're working for in our evolution is, however we do it, whether it's the God within, the Christ within, the Buddha within, or whatever, the soul, or you don't even have to call it a soul, the essence of self. And it's that place that we're conversant in this dimension. And so that's the one we want to get counsel from.
Right.
And when I talk about God's will, that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
See, so we,
The life force. I think we're saying the same thing in two
well, a
different
little
ways.
bit deeper even that, see, I'm not, so one of the things I found to keep that emerging inside of myself is to really not judge what other people are doing or thinking they should do it another way, or even old concepts, see, because when I go into this deeper sense of life and self, something rearranges it into a balanced perspective for me, see. And so in the reference of what I'm saying, that would be God's will. Let the, whatever this is deeper essence and intelligence, do the work.
Right.
So in a sense, they'll sit with a client, be present, and watch how the God, universe, essence, loving does it. And I learn from that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always exploring, always learning. So when you talk about beliefs, I don't have many beliefs unless they're useful for the moment, but to base what I'm doing on beliefs is
Right.
back in the mind. So it's what is this heart-based reality that we're seeking? And there's something about this organism we live in that the hidden truth of it is it's in synchronous rhythm with all of creation.
Mm-hmm.
See, and so that's, everything is known to everything. And so if there's an illusion that that's not so, it's one we've created.
One thing I've noticed very much you do is one-on-one. And I notice this energy that you talk about, that
Yeah.
it can be expressed one-on-one. Even with couples, like you were saying, with violence, it seems you need the one person, and when one person talks to another person, you can convey these ideas of spirit and life forces and that type of thing. And as you talk to each person, like you're talking right to me, you know,
Yeah.
you know, even emotional field and everything.
Yeah.
And I find that to be totally true in my practice, is that everything changes once they move in. When they came in, they're still in a group and everybody's watching me. And when I came here, I parked 2 blocks away because they know I was out there. And you're going, no. Everybody's not, nobody's watching, and they never did. It's been a sham. That's the imposter. But then I do go on to say, and so is this God thing.
Well, you're a little shy. Are you a little shy?
Me? Yeah, well,
I'm shy.
super shy.
Yeah, I have to work on that.
But one-on-one works good. And one-on-one you break
I'm
through
good
that.
with, yeah, I started out there. Now I'm just good with whatever.
Groups of people, like 3, is too much
See,
for me.
keep going deeper with this. Keep going deeper, and then there's only one. You go deep enough, and there's only one. Fast therapy. On that note, let's take a break.